Creepy Weasel, arguably one of the greatest nicknames I've ever heard, along with probably the greatest Nick mullet I've seen since Miguel Torres.
And Steve Montgomery says that his strengths are his heart, his technique, his cardio, and his mullet.
And there's a nice combination. Right hook, left hand behind it again. Short punches by Montgomery. Holy smokes! What a finish! The Creepy Weasel turning the lights out.
Your winner by knockout, Steve the Creepy Weasel Montgomery.
Hola, senors and senoritas. We are here live in the Weasel's Tail Creepcast. We made it to episode 10 with as little effort as we did, and for this episode, I bring you the first ever Creepcast with two guests. I have Caleb American-made Williams, hot off the frying pan from his win this weekend where he KO'd a man by slamming his face into the earth below him. And then I have our good friend and manager, Dave Doombeard Arvelo, also visiting me. So you guys both sit here and awkwardly tell them, hey.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's up, everybody?
So, we got our first guest. We had to do this one because Dave's in town. Caleb's actually, you're working at the desk right now, right?
Yeah, I'm at work right now.
Caleb is taking up Mike Brown's legacy. Mike Brown was the desk guy. Even into his championship days, he was working the front desk. And Caleb is sitting here fresh off his KO win from this weekend, working the front desk like American man, right back to work, and at the front desk at American Top Team. So tell us how it felt coming off that win, big guy.
Man, dude, it felt fucking awesome. Especially getting a big finish, slamming a dude on his face is not something that you do all the time, so definitely pretty hyped about that.
Well, absolutely, and dude, you got co-main event. I watched it from home on the on Flow Combat, and dude, first of all, Fight Pass goes out on me all the time. It's still a good stream, not knocking these people, but the stream goes out on me all the time. All sorts of other streams, I won't get into naming them, go out all the time. Flow Combat, so clean the entire time. And dude, the Shogun fights, they had awesome production, and you were the co-main event. The crowd was behind you. The place was, according to Dave here, who has the official numbers, 92?
92% sellout compared to the capacity, yeah.
So, I mean, there you go. You sold out the Hard Rock Live at 92% capacity. You were the co-main event hometown guy. Tell us about it.
Oh, man, dude, it was awesome. Honestly, getting to fight in front of a hometown crowd, even though I'm not from down Florida, but kind of made it my home, and it was nice to be able to pack the house with all the support of everyone from the gym, all the friends and other fighters and other members. It was a good feeling.
Yeah, really, just like, at the end of the day, even if you don't train with them, everyone in South Florida knows everybody throughout the MMA community one way or another. So just like you said, in front of your whole MMA, your family, and just your scene, you just showed out in the co-main event. And, dude, it was something, man. I was freaking out. I was watching from home, like, just losing my shit.
Yeah, dude, it was not what I was expecting to happen. I mean, obviously the finish, I was expecting to finish the guy, but man, I was definitely not expecting that, And then,
absolutely.
It took a second to set in. Like, even when I stood up from him and he was like out cold, I started to walk off, and then I was like, oh shit, yeah, I'm celebrating.
Yeah, I forgot. Like, geez, I didn't have to do. I think we were talking about it when you stopped by last night, where you were saying like, you were ready to land the elbow, maybe come off into a combination of knees or something from the clinch, and you got it done with just the first step of shucking that whizzer shucking your underhook at the right time.
Yeah, he tried to. Obviously, man, I use that position all the time to actually knee people, or I do like the Mako, just like sweep over my hip and take them down.
Absolutely.
But man, when he tried to do like a little like foot sweep, like judo toss, and then I was like, no, so I just hit down hard. And obviously, with already have the force of our body weight coming down, and then, dude, when I hit down, that just adds even more. And then on top of that, I think he was already rocked to begin with, because I hit him with some clean shots, and it just all that, combined into a face plant. And
yeah, Yeah, it really was just a case of you overwhelmed. Yeah, I think if you looked at it from a broader perspective, you'd say, dude, it was just a case of overwhelming force. You know, it really was.
Yeah.
And one way or another, the finish was coming. And I give him credit, dude. The second he got space, because he looked like he was a lot taller. The second he got space, he was throwing punches right down the pipe. I saw him keep you honest one time, and then you started moving back, moving your head, keeping it off center, and, the finish came.
Yeah, trying to just stay, not get wild in the pocket and just kind of stay clean and just keep the pressure coming, but also trying to, defend what was coming in.
Yeah, I don't think you took maybe one jab in that fight, and you just immediately you adapted. That's what I loved about it.
Yeah, I think he hit you with like one punch, and you kind of like smiled at him, and then came in and like nailed him with another left hook. That fight was like left hook city.
It was.
Yeah.
Good God.
I do that sometimes, man. Sometimes I get hit a couple of times, and all I do is smile because it just like puts me in the mood. Like, let's go.
Yeah, where I wonder who responsible. Well, obviously, there's a lot of people responsible for it, but I wonder who was the happiest about that left hook.
Billy Patton.
Billy over there, man. I know he was smiling about that left hook. But it really was, man. It was beautiful. It looked like you were just running through your drills, but not actually robotically. You adapted immediately.
Yeah, it was crazy. Is actually like I remember once we got out and we were walking back, I actually was apologizing, saying like, "Man, I'm sorry, I got so wild." Because like when I was in there, I almost felt like I got just out of control, like I was just wildly swinging. But then like I went back and watched the video like in the back, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I wasn't wild at all. I was just super aggressive, and I just stayed in the pocket and stayed crouching, was just slaying.
Yeah, absolutely. And dude, if I had to be critical, I would just say, man, you were out 11 months, and you might have been a little too excited. But you know what? Shoulda, woulda, coulda. You got the win and took one punch and immediately adapted. You weren't wild and uncontrolled. You were just highly aggressive, and I think that could have just been your hungry kid coming off an 11-month layoff.
Yeah, that's definitely itching
less.
to get back in there, man. Especially after last year, it was just a tease, 4.5 months, and then get nothing.
Oh, dude, tell me about it, dude. I've been having the fruit dangled right in front of me and taken away, just taken away the sweet fruit of even the chance of victory. But you know how it goes.
Yeah, of course. It's the game we chose, the game we play.
I feel, too, Caleb, I feel like if let's say he had survived that first 2.5 minute onslaught, which not many can, if he did, I feel like you would have settled right in. You know what I mean? Like, you would have immediately
I was starting to calm down a little bit, like Steve, obviously. I remember hearing him yell in the corner, like, settle.
Yeah.
Because obviously I was going at it. You don't want to, like, blow your wad in the first round.
Dude.
Like, I kind of went out there a little crazy, but then I started settling down, and then came the finish.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Steve, I've had Steve in my corner several times, and he's always such a good, distinct voice and very subtle, but very effective with what he's yelling. Like what he's yelling, basically, like you said. Like I even heard him saying, like you said, he was like, "Slow it down, set it up, Caleb." Like saying perfect little subtle cues,
Yeah, it wasn't like he was like trying to tell me like, do this, then this, then this. It was just very subtle, simple instructions.
Just what he's talking about.
That's all you can really do in the corner. You can't give a full like description of what you want him to do. You just got to kind of keep it short and simple.
But those short and simple cues take you back to a million full descriptions he gave you in the camp.
Exactly.
So it's perfect, dude. But you did awesome, man. And speaking of, I just want to ask you, there's a lot of people obviously listening to this who don't know much about MMA, and especially not about the up and coming fighters like yourself. So when you're getting there ready for, I don't know, 3,000, what would you say, 2,000, 3,000?
2,000 something people, yeah.
Let's say two, so between 2 to 2,800 people there, like you said, you probably know of at least 1,000 of them. How is that in the locker room for you, preparing for that? Especially a co-main event spot where, like, the main event was a good fight, but they're not local. So you're the local main event, let's be honest. So how is that mentally for you, getting ready for that?
Man, I feel like there's a lot more nerves heading to the venue than once I get there. Like, obviously, when I'm heading the venue, like, there's, your nerves are going. But then once I get there, man, I'm usually fighting so late on the card that I go back and I sit there and we bullshit. And sometimes I take a nap. Like, I took a 20-minute nap when I was back there. and just kind of relax and just settle my mind and try not to think about what everyone there and what they're going to be watching. It's more like focus on like what I'm going to do and just like the task at hand, which kind of keeps my mind off all the people that are going to be there.
True that. That's a great what. See, you know what? Not a lot of people know this just from an outside perspective. You are a very mentally strong person, and not in a way that you have to overhype it or anything. I think it comes naturally to you. You country boys, you have really good, wise thoughts, and you keep it to that thought and stick to that thought. Keep it simple. Like you said, you just focus on what you're doing, and you definitely have an edge mentally, I think, on a lot of fighters out there. Some of the most talented fighters in the world. You got the talent and the mindset. And
now we just gotta, wrap a couple more wins and hopefully get in that big show.
Absolutely. Well, how is your body feeling? No injuries? Everything good?
No, man, everything's good. Honestly, I could fight tomorrow if need be.
That's awesome. How you taking this week? You taking it off, or are you still doing a little training?
This week I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna relax and chill this week. But I'll be back to training Monday. I know. I think Trey said he's got one coming up in June. I'm sure I'll probably be coming up sometime. Early summer-ish. So just start getting back into things, start easing back into training.
You're a smart man.
Prepping.
See how many? Look at me. I'm an idiot. I can't even abide by simple advice like that. Like you're doing. Just take a week off, ease back into it.
It's hard sometimes. It really is hard sometimes, especially when I work here and I just have to see everyone else training.
Absolutely.
And it makes me feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah, you are immersed in it even more. You have to see it on a daily basis. Like if you're not training, you're around just a plethora of like amazing training sessions. Even just the drilling, it'd be hard to resist just drilling.
Yeah, man, it makes you just want to get back in here and start to work, especially when you come off the high of a win or even a loss. Like you're just so motivated. You're just the emotions going through your body. You're just like, man, I just want to get back in there. Fix like even when I win, like I just want to fix things that I felt like maybe I felt that I slacked in. Like, oh, I need to improve here. So I always think about stuff like that, and it makes you want to get back in here quicker.
Absolutely, dude. And you're working the front desk, so how do you get a lot of people coming through who are at the fight and everything?
Yeah, I've got a lot of people through the last couple of days, and obviously on top of that, then all the stuff because the video went viral. So been getting tweets, and Instagram posts, and all kinds of stuff because it's everywhere.
Yeah, that is awesome. Good for you, man. Finally, I wish you do. I mean, you actually know because you're probably just as happy. I'm very happy for you, dude. That's just the one of many, and obviously that show was awesome, and my man Dave here who helped facilitate that show. Thank you, because watching from home, that did big things for all the gyms in South Florida. There was all the gyms I think showed out. You had Hard Knocks, you had some people from Combat Club, you had gyms from all over South Florida, and there was 15 fights?
No, there were 11 fights. There were originally supposed to be more, but just typical stuff. Some fights kind of end up falling off. Some guys decide it's a great idea to show up 9.5 pounds overweight on weigh-in day, and Caleb was there to see that, and I won't name names and throw anyone under the bus personally, but it's always funny to me when I'm at a weigh-in, and a guy shows up. If a dude's hurting and he's a pound or two or something like that overweight, you can kind of understand that. You make that work, whatever, right? Like it happens. But when you show up, 9.5 pounds overweight, it's like you screwed the pooch and you basically just gave up a long time ago, in my opinion. It's like Sam Kaplan from used to be the matchmaker for Bellator. He always described it like this, and I really like the analogy. He's like, when you miss weight by that much, it's like punting in football. Hey, we can't get it done. We're going to punt it off to you, put the ball in your court. It's up to you to make something work. And people show up that overweight and then still act like it's not too much of an imposition for people to take the fight. It's just like, man, you make weight classes for a reason. And then the coach of this particular fighter, he was like, oh, well, hey, I'm just the coach, man. I don't really control, this stuff. I can't help it that he's, overweight like that. And I don't want him to get any more dehydrated and stuff. And, it's like, I kind of wanted to just tell the guy, well, then as a coach, you're clearly not on top of, your game. And, I kind of look at you in a little bit less of a way now because you clearly aren't on top of your shit. I mean, you know, I've seen guys miss weight even worse than that. I mean, a guy who Steve fought in the past, whose name I also won't mention.
God, it's like 15
He
pounds?
showed up at he showed up 17 and a half pounds overweight for a professional welterweight title fight at a show that I was helping run a couple of years back, and I was just like, dude, you didn't even make 85. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, dude, it's just like, at that point, it's like, what, you didn't even try, man.
Yeah, you know, it's like...
So I just don't even cut weight anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even cut weight. I'm done with it. Like, these guys are... I mean, maybe I jump rope the day of weigh-in, so I don't gain weight that day. But I just... it's you know, I'm tall enough. I'm done cutting weight. I'm going to put some muscle on or something. These guys are psychos.
Get yoked.
Well, they don't. These guys don't make, like you're saying. That's disgusting. And that was one of. Who was that guy? Well, I don't want to name names, but long story short, still, you leave one fighter who doesn't get paid or doesn't have all of the tickets he sold, or just now it's like, here's your. Does he have to give the money back? I'd imagine.
Well,
if
I
they're
mean,
coming to see
the
you.
way, in my opinion, and stuff like that. I mean, if something like that happens, the fighter who misses weight, you know, he doesn't get his tickets back.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't get paid, no show money, nothing. You know, if you screw the pooch that bad and it causes the fight to fall apart,
Yeah.
like, that's on you.
And I've
Yeah,
seen
because I mean, the promotion's done invested money in that fight, and now here it is. You're on weigh-in day. It's not even like, oh, hey, it's a couple weeks out, or when they can, you know, find a replacement.
Yeah.
Like, you've done screwed that entire fight.
Yeah, and the
so the
commission
show loses
won't
out on
approve it.
that, and then like people like lose out on that. Like, say, if that happened to me, like that's money out that's coming out of my pocket.
Yeah, well, sometimes too, you're like, all right, well, I'll fight him, but the commission won't even approve it. So it's like,
Yeah.
you screwed us so bad
Yeah,
just by
it's-
not
you
coming
know,
on weight.
It's like with that, you know, it's like, let us know in advance that you're going to be crazy heavy so you can either negotiate a catch weight
Yes.
situation beforehand
Exactly.
or maybe try to find somebody else. But that late in the game, there's really nothing
Yeah,
you
you
can
got to do a catch weight.
you know, when you're that heavy. And it's just, you know, I think this particular fighter who did that at that event, he's going to have an awfully hard time getting people to fight him because
they're going to see that.
you know, it's again, I mean, you know, a pound or two or something like that stuff happens, and I think most.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, because
Yeah.
that could be just a miscalculation on
Sure.
your weight cut, and also, you know, just different scales. Obviously,
Yeah.
different scales are gonna weigh in different. But dude, when you're anytime you're 5 or over, you know, more, I feel like it's not, you know, that it's you literally just decided to say fuck it and you stop cutting weight, or you just, you know, if you're more than 5 pounds, you just said, I'm not just cutting weight at all. You're not even gonna try. You done gave up. You mentally broke. I mean, I feel like everyone knows that's one of the hardest things to do in the sport is to make weight. You know, especially some of these people cutting crazy amounts of weight, but like you can't do that and then just, you know, show up and be like, oh well, you know, hey, I'll take the fight. You know, do you want to fight me? You put it on the other guy when it's not even his fault.
Yeah.
You know, he came in, showed up like a professional. He made weight. But now you're putting it on him like it's his, you know, it's in the ball's in his court. Then you want to try and make him look bad for not taking a fight because you're overweight.
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
it's a nightmare.
when it comes to that stuff, like, irrespective of any suspension a guy gets from the commission, you know, if it's anything that I'm kind of involved in from a consulting standpoint for a promotion or whatever, you know, when a guy screws the pooch that badly, like, whether you're suspended or not, like, if I even am open to ever working with the guy again, like, I'll put him in timeout for probably like a year, you know, and just not work with him because it's like the stuff you did, it's just so damaging to everybody, you know.
It really is like comparing it to people who don't understand. Like, that's such a bad business deal. That's like borrowing 20 grand from an investor. Let's say not 20 grand. It's like borrowing 5 grand from an investor, coming back to him a week later and saying, hey, or even 6 weeks later and saying, hey man, I don't know where the 5 grand is. I need another 5 grand in 3 weeks though. Like, I don't know where the other 5 grand went. I'll get that back to you later if you give me another 5 grand in 3 weeks. It's just someone who's unprofessional.
Yeah, it's like, man, dude, it doesn't work like that. Like, no,
it doesn't. But speaking of, I really do want to hype up that show because I mean that was one instance, and I do know some other fights fell off for random things, but the fights you guys had were awesome.
Yeah.
They were broadcast really, really well on Flow Combat. And I really just enjoyed the production of the show. Everything about it. You had Jason Floyd commentating.
Yep.
I didn't know the guy from, you said CFFC, but he did a good job.
Yep.
Meshed really well with Jason, and I like the commentary. I love the cage. I love any type of bright, like white cage. That reminds me of Japan. The place was 92% full. Ton of hometown talent with hometown fans, so the energy was great. Finishes were happening all over the place, upsets, all that good stuff. Submissions, knockouts. So I want to talk a little bit about the card. Obviously, Caleb, I know you didn't get to watch a lot of the fights because you were keeping your mind right in the back. But, I mean, some of the ones I enjoyed, even, obviously all three, you, Lamar, and Gabe's fights were awesome. But there were some other fights on there. There was one that ended in a heel hook that was really nice. There was a couple of knockouts on the card. You know Smith, Caleb. He did really well.
Yeah, I saw that he went. And then I did see a clip of that Chavez fight. That dude, man, he slept that dude with a right hand. He had to do with the right hand, and kind of the guy started to lean some and hit him again, and his head, he hit him so hard that when he hit the ground, he actually bounced back up, and then he came down and just rained punches on him.
And it's vicious.
It was vicious, but you know what's interesting that I've noticed, which sometimes if you hit somebody with a punch and walk off, they might honestly just be laid out there for 30 seconds, and then sometimes if you follow up, you hit them and somehow it wakes them back up, and at least you still get the finish, but at least the person's awake now, and he's obviously dazed, but he's still awake, which is better than just being laid out. I wonder if that does more damage ultimately, taking those extra shots.
Man, I don't know. I've actually had that happen to me before. I mean, I've slept dudes, and then they hit the canvas and come back too, and then I end up finishing them with punches. But man, sometimes I've had it where hit a dude, and on the way down, he hit him again, then kind of wakes him back up. It's it kind of sucks because obviously you're oh yeah, I got the knockout, and then you don't get. I mean, you still get the finish, but of course, everyone wants just that walk away knockout, hey, I'm done. Fight's over.
I've seen that shake out both ways before. I've seen the kind of walk off knockout where you go away and then the guy's not really moving much and the ref stops it. Then I've also seen guys, they drop a guy, they follow him to the ground, and they hit him with some more punches, and they wake him back up, and then all of a sudden he, kind of comes back too, and he's working his guard and he's doing other stuff, and the fight keeps going and potentially even goes the other way.
Absolutely.
At the end.
Look at the Frankie Edgar fights at the highest level, even.
And it's so sometimes I think it's almost just man, if you drop a guy, maybe give him the space, because if he can't immediately come to and start moving, a ref is most likely going to stop it because of how it looks, as opposed to maybe following him down and maybe waking him back up with some,
it's so hard.
Punches.
It's so hard to control those emotions and instincts because you're running on adrenaline. And Caleb, speaking of, okay, let's talk to you about it. You didn't, which obviously at the end of the day, you don't want to hit a guy extra if you don't need to. One, you don't really want to take away his brain cells. That's just, who cares to once you've won. And you don't want to risk breaking your hand. You had a walk-off knockout. How did you know not to hit him? I saw Steve Bruno, the announcers were even talking about it in the corner, waving he is done, ref. He's done. Stop it. And then,
dude, honestly, that's kind of what saved me from, because I had popped up, because when we hit down, I knew we hit, and he wasn't moving, but I also had my weight on him, so I kind of back mounted him, so I wasn't sure if he was out yet, so I postured up ready to hit.
Absolutely.
But then, as soon as we hit, he was he's out, because I was in my corner, so dude, he's out, so I was just oh shit, and I just stood up.
Good.
And then obviously that's how I'm oh yeah, he's fucking out, and I was all right, walk off, let's go celebrate.
Yes, I love it. I'm telling you, man, Steve is... Him and Steve Mako, they don't get a lot of good credit for being as good a corner. They don't ask for credit, but man, the cornering advice they give is so solid. And like you said, just even to the point where he knew it was done before you, because like you said, you were in the momentum of the move itself, and it would only make sense to, as soon as you take your weight off him, throw a punch, even if you're just going to transition where you were. So it was only sense to hit him more, even without knowing he's out. And Steve knew before you did. So he was able to. It's
because, man, I've been in that position before, man. I've had that same position, where I hit down, and in practice, and obviously, it's not a live situation, and we're not throwing hard, and maybe not even hitting down as hard, but still, had that position where dudes maybe fell on their face and they didn't go out, right back into training. We're still training, going at it. So, your just natural instincts go right to it. But, luckily, I had a good corner squad. I had Ben Stark, who always travels with me and corners me. And then I had Steve, Bruno, and then Billy Padman. I was pretty well set on my corner. I mean, everything was both, Steve and Ben were, giving instructions. I could hear them very clearly. They both complimented each other. They were both saying, one or the other, and it wasn't like, one was saying one thing, one was saying something completely different. They were both on point. They were both on the same page, and everything was, going right in hand with each other.
Love it. I love it. I just got goosebumps, dude. Just thinking of, I like it, man. That's so awesome. And I loved Gabe's fight. Lamar looked really good with his striking. I mean, and dude, what's funny with Gabe? I didn't even think about it because I never disliked the Brian Ortega guy. You can't dislike him, but I just never really paid attention to him to his last couple of fights. And when I watched Gabe fight, I was like, oh my God, he kind of looks like Brian Ortega. Even the way he fights, he's got, he's kind of creative striker, really good grappler, and he finished beautifully with that guillotine. That guillotine was highlight, man. Turn the guy over with it. I think if your finish hadn't happened, his would have been like the viral finish just because of the way it tilted the guy dramatically into mount as he was tapping. It was really slick.
Yeah, no, I got to see his finish, because it's not because I didn't get to see any of the fights, but I got to see his finish, that little clip. But man, all the guys did really well.
Yeah.
I was really happy for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if the replay's up on Flow Combat. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I haven't actually got on there to check.
Oh, I might get on and do that.
Usually they leave the events up on Flow Combat.
Yeah, we'll have to look for that one.
Loaded up.
We'll have to look for that. And so, I mean, Dave, did you do the matchmaking for that whole show?
I helped consult a little bit for the promotion.
Right, help find fighters and things.
Steer them in the right direction. It's Shogun Fights has Antonio Santiago down here. He's the former matchmaker for, Fight Time Promotions.
Oh, nice.
He knows a lot of these guys, so do I. So, I feel like when it comes to, relationships down in South Florida, it's like we're kind of the yin to each other's yang as far as...
You all know reliable, good fighters, good camps.
Good fighters, guys who will promote themselves, sell tickets, do their part too. And, Antonio's really great. He's a good matchmaker. He's solid, hardworking dude. Knows his stuff. It's like talking to him, and, it's like when I, work on behalf of other promotions sometimes, talking to their matchmakers and stuff. Sometimes guys aren't really on the same page, but Antonio gets it. He's a solid guy.
That's awesome.
And he's pretty in touch with a lot of the things down here. He's also bilingual, which is helpful because South Florida is just a real melting pot, and you get fighters coming from all over, and
international
despite
talent,
my Spanish and Puerto Rican background and stuff like that, I'm not fluent in Spanish even remotely anymore. So he's very helpful in that regard as well. And but Antonio's great, and definitely got a good mix of fighters from a lot of the solid gyms throughout South Florida. It was good.
What was the?
It definitely showed. I mean, you launched the fight card. I mean, it was definitely very well put together. Obviously, the fans were
Fred Moncao.
Awesome.
Yeah. What's it? Yeah, you had a lot of talented fighters.
You've got Fred Moncayo was on the card. He's got Moncayo Brothers Jiu-Jitsu with his brother, and there's some guys that train out of there as well. Smith Amiziel was another guy out of that gym who trains with Fred a lot now. And Smith did well, but
he's a good dude, man. Yeah. His record does not speak for, because he used to train with us, and he's very talented.
And we had a very good spread of guys, very good representation of the talent pool in South Florida. It wasn't specific to one particular gym or whatever. And the thing is, it's like there were a lot of finishes on the card, and some people who don't really understand it, they might say that there were lots of finishes, the fights weren't good. But if you look at all the fights, every single one of those fights was right there on paper, right with each other. They're all evenly matched fights. But the thing is, I like to kind of encourage promotions and everything to just kind of get fighters who are exciting, guys who come to fight.
Exactly.
And if you match fights well stylistically, it's an evenly matched fight. Guys are competitive with each other, but hopefully, you're getting finishes. You're getting guys who want to finish, and the card was pretty exciting. It wasn't one of those cards that drags on till 1:30 in the morning, and
it was great.
It's like people are trying to wait to see the main event, but they're weighing their options as to whether they just go home and call it quits. I mean, it wasn't one of those nights. The show started on time, which was great, and it ran for a couple hours, which I'm sure the casino was very happy about, because then everyone could get out and eat and drink and gamble in the casino afterwards on St. Patty's Day. So
that was
awesome.
It
was a nice, very nice event. I think compared to some other promotions in the past that have come through and didn't really pay attention to a lot of those things, I think we had a good representation of the different gyms that were there in South Florida to participate on the card, and the crowd was nice, and the crowd was live, and they supported the fighters, even ones they didn't know, and it was great.
Yeah.
Most of the crowd stuck around for the whole event and didn't just leave when their buddy fought.
Yeah, the MMA Masters guy who got that. You were talking about his knockout. What's his name?
Yeah,
again?
Chavez.
Danny Chavez.
Danny Chavez. He was very talented. And who was the guy Angel fought? He was from Hard Knocks. He was super talented.
Geraldo Rosa.
He was talented, because I know that's the thing. Angel and Smith. I think they have. What's Smith's record? 2-4.
Yeah, he's 2-4.
And Angel
now.
was like 4-6 or something. But I'm telling you, these guys, their records don't speak for how good they are, and that's why you see these highly aggressive fights, like you said, with guys hunting finishes. Angel was hunting the takedown hard, looking really hard, because I know he wants that choke. He wants to pound the guy out, get on top of him. And the Chavez kid weathered that storm and found a quick opening, and it made him pay for it. So it's like these fights were. Like you said, it was such a good talent pool of guys that are working their way up to the bigger shows. Some of them that could probably still do well in the bigger shows. Like you, Caleb.
That's another thing too, man, that makes the sport so exciting. It's just because at any given moment, anything can happen. Dude, one punch, one small mistake, and grappling, and that could be all she wrote.
Absolutely.
Any given minute, they could turn the tide. One fight, like you might look at a guy, and a guy's completely dominating, and then all of a sudden he gets clipped. Or, he gets caught in a submission and then the fight's over.
And it can be stupid stuff. Like, I've seen, like, Caleb, I don't want to put any Black Widow on you, but I'm just saying, like, what happens if that guy, instead of you slamming him on his face, if he did the whizzer, but to defend it, you just, like, stepped your leg a certain way, twist your knee a little funky, all of a sudden your knee starts acting up, and instead of you getting the first round finish, it turns into a war where you're trying to protect your hurt leg standing southpaw the whole time.
Yeah, man. Or even
hell,
I could have even got my face slammed. I could have been the one that hit the canvas.
There you go.
He could have hit down on me, and
exactly.
I could have hit the canvas. So, anything can happen, obviously. That's the thing, is like, that's what we've been. We're basically modern day gladiators. We all know when we walk in the cage, we all know what we're sacrificing and what the risks are, but yet we still do it either way. Obviously, like us, like, you always want the win, but at the same time, you want to impress the fans. Like, man, you want to impress the fans.
Yeah, dude.
You impress the fans, like, because
if you don't lie, your ego's involved.
You want you back.
You want
you back. Yeah, it's great. It's a good feeling when when you're getting congratulated. Everyone wants to take a picture. They want you, like, oh man, I'm gonna follow you. Oh man, I want to come to your next fight because that was awesome. It's a good feeling.
Absolutely, bro. That's exactly. It is a great film. But you know what I will say, and I'm sure you feel the same way. We're both young dudes, but I think we have a long enough resume to say we're decently experienced guys, and it's at the end of the day, you get to a point where you honestly just get so obsessed with the process in the cage. As you get more technical, as you start to understand the game more, I like the accolades from the crowd and everything, but I really have gotten obsessed lately with which I haven't fought in a while, but even then, I was getting obsessed with the results. Like, I have to make this perfect. Like you just did. You took one shot, perfect performance. Like you said, you weren't thinking about the crowd when you got there. You don't care about the accolades. You're so focused on that moment and making everything perfect and getting that finish that nothing else mattered. That's all you cared about. Then afterwards, obviously, it's nice, but you're not.
Yeah, of course. Afterwards, you're like, oh yeah, I'm happy. I put on a show. But obviously, yeah, in the heat of the moment, winning's winning, and that's what you got to do first, man. Wins first. Like, I've had fights that weren't probably the most exciting, because it was just the stylistical matchup. But thankfully, I was able to put on a good show and kind of came a little bit of an internet sensation overnight, which is kind of cool. But
I love that.
I'm just happy just to redeem myself, because obviously last year I felt bad, when I got that split decision, like, that controversial loss, and then all the stuff with the show getting canceled. So it's definitely a good redeeming moment for me.
Man, that's so awesome. That is so good to hear.
Yeah, I was telling Steve, and I was talking to some other people about it. But the thing is, it's like, what Mike Brown said is true on Steve's last podcast. It's like you're ready for a bigger promotion. It's it's like your record being 9-4, but 3 of those losses being like bad decisions from judges. It puts it into perspective. Like if not for bad judging, you'd be 12-1 right now, which is crazy.
Yeah, I'd be 12-1 and probably already in a big show. You know, at least a fight or 2 in.
It's like that's kind of the difference that stuff makes sometimes. I mean, that's why. Dude, I give plenty of credit where credit is due. In the Florida Boxing Commission, the new commissioner Patrick Cunningham, the new assistant commissioner, Tim Shipman, they're great guys to work with, and they were really cool, really hospitable. They're very open-minded about having some different processes and really just kind of revamping the way that they handle a lot of their officials and also address issues with officials, because as we all know, there are a couple of officials in Florida that really have no business reffing fights ever again. And I just had a frank conversation with the athletic commissioner, and I just told them, I was like, hey, there's an official, one in particular, who's he's so bad to the point that a lot of these guys just say that they won't step in the cage if he's the ref in there anymore. And, they were very cool about it. They understood. I explained, myself and the background of the situation, and they were great. And, we had great officials. The judging was solid. The couple fights that went to decision, I felt like the judging was correct. And, the refereeing was good. They gave guys a chance to fight, but when a guy wasn't defending himself anymore, or he was tapping, or it was, definitely going to be TKO'd, the ref stopped it, I feel, at the appropriate time. I thought the officiating was great. I thought the Florida Boxing Commission did a great job with everything.
You got the Philly Hook School. You got Chuck and Pop working cuts and stuff. And those, I will say this, dude. Chuck and Pop can close. Well, Pop I know is getting really good. He's learning a lot from under Chuck. I know he can tape hands well. I'm not sure about the cuts because I've never gotten to see it. But Chuck can stop a cut like a tampon, man. He really can, dude. He can stop the bleeding.
And Chuck and Pops together, between the two of those guys are characters. They're hilarious.
They're like their energy.
Oh, God, yeah.
The thing that's fun is their energy. You know how everyone talks about Burt Watson.
Yeah.
You had Burt Watson doing the I guess you'd say the production of the show, kind of keeping it moving.
Yeah.
So you got that energy, and then you've got Chuck and Pop right there just adding on to that energy. So it makes the whole, even the productions over here talk like Chuck will sit there if he's got to wrap your hands and he doesn't know you. He'll just sit there and make you feel good. He'll just talk to you, bullshit with you, and he's just got that old school like mannerism about him, and just it lifts you up. I've seen him do it to a lot of kids and put a lot of nervous fighters that he didn't know in a good mood.
Good comedic energy.
Good comedic energy, exactly. Like keeps you lighthearted, and it's pretty awesome to see all that coming together. And I was just so happy to see the venue filled up. Is there just, I don't know what you can say or what you can't say, Dave, but do you know about when they might be doing another event down here?
It's like the plan that they've got is basically just to kind of be down here, pretty much on a quarterly basis.
Nice.
It's first splash into the market was very, good, very successful, great turnout,
especially on St. Patty's weekend.
Sponsors were happy, everyone was happy, so casino was happy, so it's good. I think Shogun fights, it flies very under the radar, but John Rollo, the promoter and president of Shogun fights, aside from being a super nice guy from Baltimore, physically, honestly, and I've been around a lot of very skilled guys, both fighters, soldiers, law enforcement, just private contractors, you name it, right? Physically, he's probably one of the most intimidating people I've ever been around. But he's
the dude is enormous. I shook his hand, and I literally felt like I shook Shrek's hand. Like, he was huge. He congratulated me after the fight, and I was just like, this guy is enormous.
He's one of those guys that, and I've always had a great relationship with John. He's an amazing guy. He's awesome to talk to. I love his perspective. But he's one of those guys that if he was in my face and he was cursing me out and giving me the business and saying all kinds of messed up things about me, I'd be like, you know what? You're right. I'm so sorry. Just don't hurt me.
Don't bend me over and do terrible things. Please.
Yeah, dude, pretty much. And dude, plus, And then on top of that, dude, isn't he? What is he? He's a Henzo black belt.
Yeah, he's former.
Yeah, so like not only is he just like big and strong, but he also knows how to physically choke you out as well.
Oh, that's
like,
awesome.
Put
I
you to
love
sleep.
people like that, though. I love gentle giants.
But John is an extremely good promoter. It's
awesome.
A lot of people are maybe thrown off by his appearance just because he's a mountain of a man, big, tatted up guy. But the thing is, he's actually John is brilliant. Like the shows that he does up in Baltimore at the big arena downtown. Realistically, if you really want to get down to it, and John's not an arrogant guy, so he doesn't put his stuff out there. But like truly. You have UFC events, you have Bellator events, and then after that, in the continental United States, John Rollo and his Shogun Fights events in Baltimore, he is doing the third largest shows in the United States on a consistent basis.
Based off fans in the seats.
Based off of fans in the seats. If you're looking at other quote-unquote bigger promotions other than Bellator or the UFC, John has done much bigger gates than some of these other quote-unquote bigger shows. I mean, the guy knows the business, knows how to promote fights, knows how to build fighters, help fighters build their fan bases. He packs that arena every
Adi?
time.
Remember Adi, Caleb? Adi used to fight for him. He had some sick knockouts.
Yeah,
And come to think of it,
Adi's fought for him a couple times.
That's awesome.
Adi's from like that Baltimore, Maryland
Adi's
area.
from Baltimore.
Yeah.
And,
that's so awesome.
With John, coming down here and the new president of Alliance MMA, Ira Reigns. Ira's a Baltimore guy, but he also lives down here sometimes. But I think it's just really cool because John is very in touch with what makes the regional scene tick. He gets it, and he's a brilliant promoter and a really smart and personable guy.
Yeah.
And I think a guy like him coming down and really kind of spearheading, bringing a new promotion to the market, that's doing big shows, great production, great venues, putting on good fights, wanting to put on good fights with, good fighters, and also build the next wave of guys too, and I think it's going to be cool, and it's always nice to work with a dude like John who's, keeps it real. He's in touch with things, but at the same time, it's just I genuinely enjoy every conversation I have with the guy. So
that's awesome. And you know what I love too about the MMA scene down here? You've got the more shows the better because you're trying to build we've got so many gyms. We got more fighters than these shows can handle.
Talent pool so deep.
Talent pool down here is exactly so deep. So you've got an occasional maybe UFC or Bellator that comes through. That's at the top, and that's if you're obviously in that caliber. But for all the fighters under that caliber trying to build their way up, you've got Titan, which does a good job. You've got occasional the AFCs. I'm missing so many shows. Help me out.
I mean, you have RFC
Fight Time
up in Tampa. Well, you have RFC up in Tampa, and then you
right. But I'm talking
then,
like the southeastern Florida, because like you said, there's a ton of Florida shows.
Southeast. Man, we just really don't have much.
Well, there's Titan.
Fight Time. Well, I think Fight Time's not having shows no more, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Fight Time. I don't think they're gonna do anything anymore.
Okay, so you don't even have Fight Time anymore. So you got, Titan does a good job, but they can only throw so many shows a year, and then you've got, that's the thing. We need more shows because at the end of the day, it's like if a fighter gets 5 fights and in his hometown on Alliance fights and does really well, and then Alliance gets so full that he goes and fights for Titan, now he's that much more marketable for Titan, and vice versa. And it just makes the whole scene grow. And so we need more consistent shows down here.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, it's like, the talent pool here is so deep that it can accommodate more than one, really, easily, and the thing is...
Easily 5 shows. We could go through 5 shows, no problem.
Me and, Brian Hamper, Brian Butler, we've got, a great relationship with Titan. We have guys fight for them regularly as well. And, the thing is, it's like as long as, promotions are friendly, they're not trying to step on each other's toes and poach fighters and get into, like, some of the dirtier stuff that can sometimes happen, it's like there are promotions all over the country that might have another promotion in their area, but they get along and everything's cool because if both sides kind of know who they're working with and who they're not working with and, give each other some space in between their shows and all that stuff and don't try to really, rush people's dates, it's not hard to do. And, and Lex and Jeff Aronson from Titan FC, those guys are great guys. They're putting on a great show that's really showcasing a lot of not just South Florida talent, but talent from all over the country too.
That's what they do. I like what Lex and them do because they'll bring in some international or somewhere from around the country talent to fight a South Florida guy. Which whether the South Florida guy wins, does well, or loses, regardless, it's bringing up his worth. It's like if you beat a guy from who's a top 5 guy in the Northwestern region, and you beat that guy, it's like that shows the UFC or that shows whoever you want it to show. Where your level is. And then with you guys coming in, pumping more shows, and obviously, like you said, knowing Lex and Jeff, so you work around it. It builds the whole scene, makes all the fighters more valuable. It makes the whole. I just think it just adds to the scene.
Yeah, I mean, and then the thing is, it's like some people might look at Titan as a local event, and they are. They are local to South Florida, but when you look at some of the fights they're putting on their cards, those are borderline UFC level fights.
Absolutely.
Some of those fights could very easily be taking place on a UFC card on any given weekend.
Yeah, look at the talent that's gone through there. Like if you look at the actual talent that maybe didn't have that UFC caliber fight with them, go look at the fights they had in their UFC career.
Look at you. I mean, a couple of years back, you fought Brock Jardine, who was a UFC vet. You fought him in Titan FC, and then you ended up on the Ultimate Fighter shortly thereafter and in the UFC after that. But that's exactly my point.
Just one of many.
I think that sometimes it's like everyone knows that Titan is a big show, but I think sometimes people just kind of sleep on just how important some of these fights that take place are, and just how talented a lot of the guys that fight on that show are just on show in and show out basis and stuff. And it's again, dude, the talent pool down in South Florida is definitely one of the deepest in the country and just the world.
Yeah.
It's some of these gyms. I mean, South Florida is just a mecca for MMA training.
Absolutely. You know why I think this is just? Tell me what y'all think. My opinion on why maybe we don't have a larger amount of shows. We've had a lot of shows come through and they go under really fast, and so we can't say it has been for a lack of effort. But a lot of the reasons these shows go under, I think, is because there is so much going on in South Florida. It's hard to get the general public's attention. And it's like a lot of the MMA community down here is not necessarily spending money at the events. They're actually in the events as a cornerman or they're fighting on it. So it's like you're not making a lot of money off the MMA community. You have to get the general public interested in your events. And it's like they got casinos, they got the beach, they got everything there is to do in Southeast Florida, to do, so why go to an MMA fight? And I think that's why a lot of shows have had trouble, getting past that marketing challenge. So that's why I couldn't believe you guys had 92% capacity at the Hard Rock, where there's so much of that South Florida life going on, where people have all this stuff to do, and that's so awesome, man. And it seemed really like there was more than 11 fights, probably because I think there was like 11 finishes, and 9 and maybe 2 decisions.
Yeah,
it was an awesome fight card. And Caleb, what's next for you, man? What's the plan?
Man, hopefully, like I said, hopefully, the next Shogun fights, whenever they're down here, hopefully maybe, beginning summer, June would be a good time. Just obviously Dave would know more than I, but, we'll see what happens, obviously, when they announce when they're going to have it and see what's next. But I'm sure, probably around that time frame, we'll be seeing me in somewhere.
Very nice. Now, really quick, before I forget, I want you to plug where people can go, maybe to your fight fan page or to your social media. Any social media, plug it for me.
Twitter, Caleb_ATT, and then Instagram, Caleb W145, which I got to change that this week. I got to change it to 155 since I'm no longer a 45.
Yeah, true
anymore.
That. Caleb W45. And then, don't you have a fan page on Facebook?
Oh, yeah. It's just Caleb Williams MMA.
Cool. Caleb Williams MMA. And as far as where, every fighter's obviously got a vision for where they want things to go beyond their control as far as getting into the UFC. And I know a lot of fighters have different takes on what that vision is. So what is your vision as far as, are you looking for, I have to be in the UFC? Or are you just looking for a show that can give you world-class fights with world-class pay and, like an ACB or a Bellator or even, a KSW? Good God, they're putting on shows.
Man. I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter to me, man. If Bellator, obviously everyone wants to go to UFC, but if Bellator came with a really good, contract, and it made sense, I would totally take it. It's another platform to
Absolutely.
build yourself on, and obviously the pay increases. If I'm as long as I'm getting the high caliber pay that I should be getting for those kind of fights, and
drop
totally go
Mike
there.
Chandler with that lead left hook.
Yeah, of course, man. Start dropping dudes, maybe slam a couple more guys in their face.
Yeah, some Steve Bruno offline head movement right into that Philly Billy left hook, and
It's a perfect
send 'em
combination,
down.
man.
I love it. So, dude, I'm really happy for you, man. All right, guys, I got to stop this real quick. Got to get to some of these advertisements, and I'm going to need your help reading them, all right?
Let's do it.
All right. So, number one is Garden of Life. And people, you can go to gardenoflife.com. They are one of the greatest supplement companies to have ever done it. They have unbelievable products from anything you could imagine, all the way from brain health to protein to more of a bodybuilding style, but it's all organic, it's all non-GMO, it's all just really high quality ingredients. And the best part is if you go to gardenoflife.com and use the promo code ambassador20, that's 20% off. You can go to Vitamin Shop, GNC, Whole Food, any grocery store, you'll probably find it. But if you go to their website, it's going to be a little cheaper to begin with, and then you're going to use my promo code, and it's going to be 20% off. So they have been hooking me up for a long time, and I really do love those guys. And I used their product long before I got sponsored by them. That is the truth. Help me, Jesus. All right. Next is Pure Spectrum CBD. These guys just hit me up actually yesterday and said they're sending me a care package. Caleb, you're sponsored by Pure Spectrum, right?
No, I actually am not.
Caleb will be.
Caleb will
But I
be.
will be.
All right. Well, either way, Pure Spectrum CBD is a really, really good CBD supplement company. It's THC free, so it's legal in all 50 states. It's very, very high quality cannabidiol, and it's basically steroids for your immune system. If you use the promo code TheCreepyWeasel when you go to checkout at PureSpectrumCBD.com, get yourself 15% off. All right. So that makes sense, right? PureSpectrumCBD.com. Tons of products, awesome stuff, good for joint pain, good for, I won't even name the number of things it's good for, and trust me, I've used a lot of it. It's awesome. Promo code CreepyWeasel, 15% off your purchase. All right, here's the ad I need y'all's help with, guys. So wearedapperties.com is my last but not least, but they really do make like the sickest hand-knit ties. I mean, they are really, really awesome, and they're not that, the best part too, they're affordable, and I have a promo code for them, but I always read this ad in some type of terrible accent because they gave me an ad to read. So I just pick a terrible accent. Dave suggested Tony Montana. Can you help me and be one of my Cuban cocaine hoarding gangsters, Caleb?
Oh my God.
Do it under your breath since you're working the front desk.
I don't think I have a good Cuban accent.
Just say yeah behind me the whole time.
I got you.
What you doing, man?
All right. Tony Montana's this week. All right. So we are Dapper Ties, man. It's a company created by brothers Andrew and Julian, bro.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, they believe that feeling and looking great, it should be affordable. I don't think it should be that expensive, man. Why are you trying to charge so much for your ties? We are dapperties.com. Don't charge nothing, man. So, you know, you rock the suit or tie daily? Are you headed to your first interview? Are you just trying to look classy for a first date? Maybe just look great, man. Let me tell you.
Smash a booty real quick, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I beat you over the head if you don't go to wearedapperties.com, man. Use the promo code CREEPY. You got free shipping, man. How you gonna find another tie cheaper than that come to your door free, bro? I kill you, man. Wearedapperties.com. Unless you don't want to breathe no more. Put a tie over your lungs, and it better be from We Are Dapper Ties. Or you ain't gonna be breathing from those lungs, man. Okay? Free shipping. Yeah. Unless you're outside the U.S. I don't know if they give you free shipping then, man. Alright. That was pretty awful, but I appreciate the help. That was my best Tony Montana accent on 15.
Yeah, I feel like there is maybe a similarity to that voice to maybe some other people we know. You know?
I don't know. I was trying to go off my other friends. So, okay, what's next? Story. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's it for the ads today. So, Caleb, at the very end of my ads, actually, you know what? There's an email. That's what it is. We got to read the email. See how terrible this podcast is? I can't even remember the most basic lineup. So I got a pretty good email, and I definitely want y'all's input on this. And anybody viewing from home, send your emails to thecreepyweasel@yahoo.com. It could be what would creepy do pertaining to anything along that questions, what it could cover, or it could just be legit or shit, whether you think something legit or shit or not. This guy didn't give me anything. He just says, has the UFC jumped the shark? Possible solution. Dear Creepy, I'm struggling with the fact that something I've loved for a long time is not all that interesting. I've followed the UFC religiously for 20 years, but haven't bought a pay-per-view in a year and have fallen asleep during the past 2 free fight night shows. The reason to me is there's so many fighters that I can't keep up with them. If there's not something special about the matchup, I really don't care to watch. It's just 2 athletes being athletic. I need to be a big fan or relate to the fighter in some way. My possible solution is having the UFC partner with regional shows multiple times a year and have the stars from each region compete in a big international event. I mean, if I just watch 2 dudes ouch each other in the face, or I think he meant punch, punch each other in the face, and I don't know anything about either one other than the loser is probably going to get cut. I'd rather know some from my area. Oh, I think he's talking about local talent. He wants someone he connects with and is getting something for the effort he put into it. And he's saying the way the UFC could still put on big pay-per-views and build talent with major following from everyone from... God, this guy does not write emails well. I'm calling you out, whoever wrote this email. He's basically saying the UFC put on big pay-per-views after they built the talent from local regions and then brought them all to fight on the big pay-per-views. And he says, instead of me seeing a guy from a country around the world that will probably only have 2 fights in the UFC, well, I guess that would be me to an Australian fan, I can see a guy from a local gym do his thing. He says, I love international fights. My all-time favorite is Genki Sudo, and I currently love Khabib. So I'm not the guy that boos foreigners or yells America during the match, but no matter where they are from, I need to connect with them. I think he means the whole, because no one really does America. They always do the USA. USA.
Yeah, but I feel like they do that. They do that to even
everywhere.
Like, guys are not even from the U.S.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I feel like there's like, oh, well, this guy's like Brazilian. It's like they're the guys from like Sweden, and they're still like USA because he's white against like a Brazilian guy.
Exactly.
But, I can totally get behind like what the guy like. I get what he's saying. Like obviously, like think about this. Like back in like 2000s, like when I was in high school, like when I was graduating high school, like 08, 09, like 2010 era, like you knew everybody on a UFC card. You knew the UFC pay-per-view. You knew every single fight on that card. You were pumped about it. You knew everything about that person. But man, the problem is just the market's been so saturated that there's so many guys on. I mean, UFC has over 500 people on a roster. So keep them busy, so they obviously have that. But I could see if, like, the UFC somehow partner, almost kind of like how, Strikeforce, how Strikeforce had the Strikeforce Challengers, almost like an A League and a B League, almost like the Major League, how they have minor leagues. That would be something I could see, could probably maybe get people pumped, like put them in like kind of like a smaller base of the UFC and watch that way people can watch them grow into stars.
Absolutely.
I think that could probably get because I mean I don't know about you, but like I don't watch every UFC fight anymore unless we got guys on the card or it's just a card I'm super excited about.
Yeah, I'm like that because I've been like that for all the fights across the board because I used to when I got into it and obviously was trying to learn the game. I started watching every last show there was. I mean, online pay-per-views. I was watching everything, dude. I got into it just as I think Pride had like their last 1 or 2 shows.
Same here. I was watching the WC. I was watching UFC. But now it's just
IFL,
so saturated.
Remember IFL? There was IFL that like basically for a long time, like you just said, I kept up with everything. I would watch the fights, and now it really has gotten so saturated that I only keep up with a couple guys that I know either through people, obviously our teammates, things like that. Like if there's a UFC with our guys on it. But I mean, I'll keep up with some fighters that I'm maybe a fan of just by chance, but I'm definitely a little saturated with it. I would like to see a little different structuring. But if you think about it, the UFC's kind of doing that. They had the looking for a fight. They have the Fight Pass, which is building guys, and they've got the Contender Series, and they I think they've kind of started doing that and branching out. You've got your official talent pools. Any fight show, like a lower level fight show that has the guys trying to come up, all those shows are on Fight Pass, or a lot of them, not all of them.
Yes, I mean, but there are a lot of people that get overly hyped about Fight Pass. Like I have Fight Pass, and sometimes I don't even use it.
Yeah,
I forget I even have it half the time. Because it's only $9 a month, so it's not something that you really notice coming out of your account. And the only time I really remember I have it is usually when there's a Titan fight and we got guys on it.
Yeah.
And I'm at work, and I'll pop it on when I'm at work. Towards the end of the night when I'm closing down, I'll watch a couple of fights.
Yeah, absolutely. I love. I gotta say, dude, Flow Combat didn't do anything at all, man. Like it literally never glitched on me. The stream was so clear, and I don't know if it was a line. Yeah, Dave, who was actually responsible for the video production there? Because they had a lot of good camera angles. They had pretty good instant replay. There were some parts where it could have been like more A-level, but dude, it was perfect and for a show's first time.
Well, here's the thing. Like, Alliance MMA is a pretty big company. They have a lot of different, aspects of the company in play aside from just promotions. But the production staff is great. You have Mark Chmielewski. He's from the Philadelphia area. Great production guy, knows his stuff. Another one of the production guys for Alliance, Evan Zentar. The guy's a younger guy. He's in like his early 20s, but the guy's just, from what I've seen, the kid's just a prodigy, super cool guy. But he is so on top of his stuff. Really cool cat. Loves metal too. Him and I have talked about it every time we've hung
Two
out.
metalheads.
But they had great production staff to go along with great light, sound, everything else. Very, 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 very great production for a regional event.
That's awesome.
It was very well ran. Everything in the back was super smooth. Our walkouts, everything was very on point. It's like, hey, we go here, let's go, let's walk out, let's get moving.
Yeah.
There wasn't any delays. It was very, very well ran.
Absolutely. And everything was on time, which is rare for an MMA show. Even for the UFC, it's rare for it to be perfectly on time.
Dude, they said 7 o'clock the fights would start, man. It's 7 o'clock. The event started. They had the national anthem and everything. And like 7:09, 7:10, the first bell rang for the fight. There was no delays. There wasn't, typically, you get in South Florida, show says they're starting at 7. You figure 7:30, 8 o'clock, the first fight will actually start.
True that. I you know what, too? Really quick, I don't know why this popped into my head, but did you guys watch the international MMA championships, the amateur championships from Bahrain?
No.
Did you? Oh my God! Did you get to watch any of that, Caleb?
I did not.
Dude, the reason I watch, Bubby. We all know Bubby. That's all.
Bubby.
Well, Bubby was one of the coaches for the internet. Like they had an amateur championship held in almost I think it was 26 different countries. So you had to win in 26 different countries. They had a tournament for every weight class where you had to win 3 fights. And I'm pretty sure they had a women's tournament too. I'm sure they had women's weight classes as well. And you had to win 3 fights in one weekend to qualify in your respective country to go to Bahrain. And so obviously right then and there, you're pulling a ton of local talent and, talent from across whatever country you're at. And, dude, so Quentin, Caleb, that 55er from my hometown that came in one time?
Yes, I do. I do remember.
If you just remember of the guy, he's the kid I told. He's like a freak talent. Could be a John Jones. He's just got a lot of things in his life that are holding him back as far as he's got big responsibilities. So he went out to the first tournament in I think it was in Ohio or somewhere like that. He won 3 fights in one weekend and then qualified to go to Bahrain to represent the USA. It was like the Olympics of MMA, even the fact that it was amateur. And so then he went out to Bahrain. Turns out Bubby was one of the coaches, so him and Bubby linked up immediately. Because Quentin doesn't have, I think he's got high school wrestling, but in an MMA fight, he looks like a D1 wrestler just based off natural ability. And Quentin won 5 fights. I think he had 2 finishes and 3 decisions. He won 5 fights in 6 days. Yeah, 5 fights in 6 days.
The boxing class, it's 3 nights a week.
Caleb's doing you hear that, people?
7:30.
That's live from the front desk at ATT.
And then we also have the team jiu-jitsu, and then we also have kids kickboxing, which is actually youth.
Can you guys hear that? Caleb doing work. Anyway, yeah, man, he won 5 fights in 6 days, and it really hyped the fighters. It was broadcast internationally for free, so I thought that was really cool. And real quick, while Caleb's doing business, Dave,
3 days a week.
What's your take on maybe a better way to build up talent to where casual fans, like the person that wrote into me, would care more about the fighters? He's basically saying, you know, if I see a fighter from somewhere, you know, 10 countries away that's only going to have 2 fights in the UFC, why should I watch that fight? I'm not interested.
Yeah, so...
25% for the year.
Yeah, let me, hold on, guys. Let me mute Caleb real quick. There we go.
Yeah, so as far as an answer to that question goes, as far as that question goes, you know, it's kind of a multi-layered answer, right? So, you know, you have the UFC. They're a worldwide brand. You know, they go around, they do shows all over the United States, all over the world. And, you know, people, you know, come to that based on the strength of what the UFC is. You know, people might come for like a couple marquee matchups and title fights, stuff like that. But a lot of people in the stands are just coming because it is a UFC event.
Yeah,
people come to see the UFC. Now, you know, as far as that stuff, you know, I've heard people talk about it before. Like, I remember when, you know, the UFC was gearing up to come to Orlando, and people were like, oh, hey, there's, you know, local fighters from Orlando or Tampa. Get the local guys on the undercard, you know, whatever, help pack the place out. And it's just like, well, it's a novel concept in theory, but the thing is, you know, the UFC doesn't really do that, you know, in the same way that like a Bellator or a, you know, a PFL, formerly World Series of Fighting, does, or like some of these other promotions do. They, you know, they build their own cards, and, you know, people come, you know, sometimes just completely irrespective of a lot of people who are on the event, on the undercard or whatever. It's not really what they do, and sometimes people suggest that, and it's, you know, kind of like guys who are talented prospects but just, you know, really aren't quite ready yet. You know, and it's like the UFC doesn't do like one-off undercard stuff in the way that, you know, Bellator or the PFL or some of these other events might. So I don't really know if that's the answer. Pull up the email again.
Oh, yeah. Let me pull up the email.
But, yeah, so as far as that stuff goes, you know, that's kind of one thing. It's kind of a little difficult for the UFC to do. It's not really something that's a part of their business model. But, you know, that would kind of like dilute the roster of the UFC a little bit more. But, you know, I think a lot of regional shows are starting to put a lot more effort into, you know, putting out more video content, more marketing.
Yeah.
A lot of fighters are taking it upon themselves to do that themselves as well, which is great. You know, you know, if you promote yourself like you're the real deal and you're the next big thing, you know, sometimes it ends up that you end up being the next big thing.
Yeah, well, if you have the actual confidence in your talent
and you grow the fan base during that time when you're kind of on the come up, so to speak. And
well, look at like a guy like Stephen Thompson, which he had a lot of combat experience prior to the UFC. But I remember, a lot of kickboxing, and he just had such a huge following.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. He really did, and I remember because I actually fought on the same shows run by Brett Moses, the old Fight Party shows, getting ready to promote him. And I remember when he was coming on the scene, he had a ton of hype, huge fan base.
Yep.
You know, when he hit the UFC, he kept growing it, and he's one of those guys who's done a good job building his name. And there's a slew of the guys. I mean, look at Conor McGregor's following before he got in the UFC.
Yeah.
And I don't think, as far as everyone says, it sounds like he was pretty broke, so I don't think his budget was that high either. He just did it by performing and, you know, keeping his name out there and talking.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, it's MMA and to a certain extent boxing and kickboxing too. It's, you know, you have the highest level promotions in the sport, so you could compare, you know, say a combination of the UFC and Bellator and, you know, your other high level promotions. You can kind of combine that into one. Just in the same way that you could have the NFL for football, for example, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, football has a much more organized and set up farm system. You know, you have Division I football where the majority of NFL players come from. Then you have Division II and Division III teams where, you know, you'll get some guys from. You know, you can kind of sort of equate that to you have your bigger, more established, you know, larger gyms, like, you know, your American top teams, your, you know, American kickboxing academies, Jackson's, Henzo Gracie, stuff like that. And then you have some of your, you know, mid-level gyms that'll put out some guys, but they're a little smaller. And then every now and again, you get some dude
Stipe
who's just
Miocic.
so naturally talented. I mean, Strong Style is actually a pretty big gym. For
Oh,
Ohio.
so okay.
They're a pretty. I
Isn't
think
that
one
where
of the-
Matt Brown came from? Strong Style? Maybe I'm wrong
Maybe,
about
but
that.
no, he was a George Grishel guy. Matt Brown came up
okay.
under George Grishel. But shout out to George Grishel, he's the man. But
Okay.
but then every now and again you'll get a talented guy who comes out of some gym in the middle of nowhere called the Bat Cave, and you'll get that guy who just kind of rises to the top. But the farm system promotionally for MMA is very fractured. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
That's
but I like it. It's the Wild West.
Yeah, it kind of can be
It is the
sometimes.
Wild West.
Truly.
Oh, Caleb's back. Sorry.
Yeah,
hey.
no, it's all good, guys. No, it is the Wild West, obviously. And you get to see the big difference, obviously in when you're at a regional show and you see some of the stuff going on behind the scenes, like the way guys are warming up, the way they're wrapping their hands, or the way they just present themselves, and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean it is. Caleb's heard this story. Steve might have as well, but I'll share it for the
what is it?
listeners of the Creepcast. So years ago, I was at an amateur event in Richmond, Virginia, and it was a little bit of a lower rent amateur show in a little lower rent hotel ballroom, and kind of ratchet, and it was one of the more ratchet amateur
I've seen a
promotions
lot of
I've been
those
to.
ratchet shows.
And
I've fought in a VFW plenty of times.
Awesome. But so this there's an amateur sanctioning body, and a buddy of mine is wrapping hands for some of the amateurs who come, and they have their quote unquote coaches who don't know how to wrap hands.
Yeah.
Independent guys, stuff like that. And this guy comes in, he's kind of late, a tall beanpole looking guy, but he's a beanpole with a pot belly, and he had two semi-automatic pistols tattooed on his stomach with the words Thug Life tattooed across the top of it on his pot belly. And, so my buddy asked him, hey, you want a striker's rap or a grappler's style rap? And, excuse my French people, but, this dude responded like that, and, the true Slim Shady, way that he was. And he was like, nah, man, fuck that wrestling shit. I'm here to do one thing. And that's throw these hands.
Oh, yeah.
And he puts his hands up like he's got, serious bricks and stuff. And, long
Why
story.
didn't he put the pistols on his hands?
That's
He should have
a good
tattooed the
question.
pistols
That's
on
a
his
good
hands.
question.
They
He
always drawn, shawty.
He just he just had some goofy scripty stuff on his hand, and he went out there and just got mollywopped all over the place and tapped the strikes in 40 seconds or something like that. But it's still a great
It's a
story.
legend,
And
dude.
Guys, everyone that knows me, like Caleb and Steve, JD DiMaggio, everyone jokes about throwing them hands.
Dude, there are some legendary one-liners in the world of MMA.
Oh, God.
I've seen and heard amazing stories. You know what? I got a quick story. Shout outs to Charles Rosa, dude. Back in 2011, you remember those shows going around, Caleb, with the local kickboxing shows, like amateur and stuff?
Yes.
Dude, it was at Strike Fit, I think, over on Powerline in Hillsborough and Deerfield. So they had this amateur kickboxing / amateur MMA show. Rosa was supposed to fight for a 155-pound belt in MMA. That's right. It was MMA. So he's supposed to fight in MMA. This other kid who was supposed to do a fight at 192 pounds for kickboxing was out of an opponent. Rose's opponent backed out, so they didn't have an opponent. And Rose's just standing there hearing his guy complain to the promoter, or maybe even complain to his corner. And then he goes, hey, wait, your opponent backed out? Yeah, my opponent backed out too. Come here. And he's doing it in his little Boston accent, He goes, let's do a kickboxing fight. You and me. Let's do a kickboxing fight. So he's just calling out this jacked up black dude who's from a good kickboxing place. He's calling him out to go and do a kickboxing fight on I don't know how many hours notice. I think maybe it was day before weigh-in. I think it was same day weigh-in this time. I don't remember. It's been so long. He goes, takes him over to the promoter, gets the athletic commission there. Somehow, he's like, yeah, I'll drink enough water, we'll re-weigh in, we'll be within 20 pounds, and we'll do a catch weight kickboxing fight. So he goes, gets within 20 pounds of the kid, puts probably water balloons in his short pockets, and then goes, fights this kid, And that gets his ass beat. Like the first 2 rounds, the kid starts gassing, and he just starts landing knees to the body. He had already been landing knees to the body while he was getting overwhelmed, but literally TKO's the guy with body shots in the 3rd round from knees. It was unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable. For a crowd of like 250 people in a kickboxing gym. It was unreal. Unreal. That's my story. What's your story time, Caleb?
God. So, dude, one of the greatest things I've ever seen on the regional scene ever was we were at North Carolina, all right, and Dave was there for this, and I think I don't remember if I was fighting for the title or if I was defending my title this time, but we're in North Carolina, we're in Winston-Salem, and this kid comes up and he goes to the fight doc, and he has a big staph sore on his stomach. And he literally takes the Band-Aid off and shows the doctor and tells him to examine it, and then gets pissed trying to like argue with the guy why he couldn't fight. He's like, I told you about it so you would know, man, so I could get my insurance form to go to the hospital afterwards.
Oh my God! Like, hey, promoter, I got a broken hand, and let me go ahead and get that insurance form so I can have your insurance cover it after the fight when I go to the hospital.
Right. It gets even better. So that fight drops off. All right, so this fight drops off, right? Okay. So then we're sitting here, and there's these 2 dudes warming up, and the guy pays Ben $20 to wrap his fighter's hand. All right. They're warming up, and they're like live grappling on these yoga mats, basically.
Slamming each other.
Dude takes his guy down and breaks his ribs and can't fight. So then that fight gets dropped off after he paid $20 to get his hands wrapped.
So he paid $20 to have his hands wrapped, and then got into a basic live session with his cornerman on a yoga mat. Not only did he get into a live hard session,
like a yoga mat,
he got into it on a 3/4 of an inch, maybe a 1/4 of an inch thick yoga mat, and broke his rib before. Oh, that's the greatest thing. I've done stupid things in my fight career. I've made some bad mistakes, but never that bad. That makes me feel better about myself, mocking those who do things lower.
Yeah,
I'm a terrible person.
It was at that same show, I think, or maybe the one after where you defended your title. Ryan Thomas was getting ready to fight Roger Carroll, the Leprechaun.
Oh, yeah.
And, Roger's a character. He's a shorter guy, but he's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he might not be the greatest guy, talent-wise, but the thing is, he's got sneaky good jiu-jitsu, and he's
solid, dude.
Very good guys.
He's tough as hell.
And I told Ryan beforehand, hey man, don't doubt yourself and don't be upset when you throw everything but the kitchen sink at this guy, and he smiles at you with a goofy grin and just kind of walks forward and keeps letting you punch him in the face, just keep doing what you're doing and just try to beat him up. And so Ryan went in and did that. I mean, realistically, he kind of treated Roger Carroll like a walking heavy bag, especially in the later aspects of the fight. But I just remember afterwards, the promoter for that fight accidentally paid Ryan $300 extra. And Ryan, a lot of fighters would have taken that money, but Ryan just, told the commission, he's like, hey, this guy gave me, a couple, $100 extra, and he just gave it right back. It's funny.
Ryan Thomas might be the shout outs to Ryan Thomas.
Yeah,
one of the toughest, but one of the most honest dudes you'll ever meet.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I probably in that situation I would have kept that money because that promoter, not gonna call any names, but that promoter cut the ringside doctor, cut the camera crew, and then cut the paramedics all last minute.
Nah, they wouldn't let him cut the paramedics.
Oh, that's what it was. It was just the doctor. Yeah. It was just the doctor and the camera.
He had an extra doctor that was there to help out and give stitches. He cut him. He cut the cut man, and he cut the camera crew the night of to save on expenses, which is crazy.
So I would have definitely kept that money.
Yeah. Well, you're not Ryan Thomas, Caleb. You're the bad guy from Illinois.
Man, I'll be the bad guy, but you know what? I'm still the nice guy because I didn't ruin Matt McCook's life. You know, I snapped their knockout. I could have literally ended his life, and I chose not to.
You did. No, I know.
Pretty classy.
No, absolutely. You never want to hit them when you don't have to. It saves your hand. It saves their health, and it's all good.
It's all good.
What doesn't Ryan Thomas have a gym back in your hometown?
Yeah, he's got a gym back home. You know, he's teaching jiu-jitsu and kickboxing classes, and then obviously he has a couple of amateurs that train with him.
Yeah, I'd imagine he's a really good teacher too. He did a lot of work at the kids program too at ATT before he left, didn't he?
And he did that. I'm not sure as far as teaching though, because I mean, when I used to start working with him, all he used to do was beat my ass.
No, I know. He's a beast, but I'm saying I think he's a lot older. He's a very experienced fighter.
Ryan's a solid dude, you know. Yeah, he's definitely doing good things. I'm happy for him. You know,
good for him.
He's probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Absolutely, and he's not a nice guy, and he can't hang out with the bros way. He's more of a bro than most bros. He's such a legit dude, but he's hilarious at the same time. So shout outs to Ryan.
He's hilarious without even trying to be.
Exactly. Go visit his gym if you're in Illinois listening because Caleb's your big fan. Yeah, real quick, plug Ryan's gym since your hometown peeps will be listening.
Ryan Thomas, you know, I think Ryan Thomas Jiu-Jitsu, it's in Tilton, Illinois.
Nice.
It's inside, I think he's partnered with Kinney's Fitness.
Very
so if anyone's in that area, you know, you want to stop in and check him out. You know, I know he does kids and adult classes, both jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, so, you know, great place to go.
Well, that's awesome, dude. Guys, thanks so much for stopping in and helping me get through episode number 10, number deuce of the Creepcast.
Heck yeah, man.
You know, we actually, I usually put a satellite in the listeners' brains, but this time I gave them a choice. I don't know why I chose to do that. Usually at the beginning of every episode, I stick a satellite down. That way I can track their attention span, how much they're listening, all that good stuff. But this time we had the man himself, American Made, coming in, and Doombeard Dave, the man behind the scenes keeping the fighters active and getting paid for punching people in the face. So I hope y'all were entertained and by all these funny, hilarious stories. We have thousands more. And also shout out to my two poodles who've been chilling the whole time, hanging out, keeping it real. And real quick, Caleb, where'd the American Made nickname come from?
So we do pro wrestling at the gym, you know, every October for Halloween, and me and my man Bupkis, we are our tag team is American Made because we are the Made Brothers, M-A-Y-D-E, and together we're American Made. So after we had my first wrestling, you know, my wrestling show here, first time I did it, I fought at the Hard Rock. I think I want to say like 6 or 7 months later.
Yeah. And
our buddy Blake Bowman was the announcer, and he announced me as American Made, and it stuck.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Blake would be the one. Blake's the one who gave me Creepy to my Weasel.
Man, Blake the Blizz, man.
He's behind the scenes making it happen, making nicknames stick. All right, guys, you heard it here first. You heard where the nickname came from. We're over and out. I'm not going to remove the satellite this time, so you don't have to call the psychiatrist. Peace.
Later.